Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time we're talking episode 9 of season 4 of The Legend of Korra called Into the Wilds. This is another really solid episode of the series. Everybody kind of gets their own little moments, and there's some nice drama, there's some funny stuff, and it goes a long way towards setting up the the sheer craziness that's going to be coming with the next 4 episodes being the series finale. So let's just kind of get right into things and start. Let's kind of start small and work our way up. We get to see some really nice stuff with Varric, and I love how he just constantly is insisting. I was allegedly did that. He's very big on the whole. You can't prove that I did it, so stop acting like you know that I did, even though he totally did. Much to the annoyance of President Raiko. And I also like that Asami is totally like, I haven't forgotten how you screwed me over, so I'm going to be watching you like a hawk. And, good on her for that. Varric's real change of heart is still a very new thing, and it's perfectly reasonable as to why no one would trust him. I was actually a little bit disappointed. I was kind of hoping that after she did it, Varric might have just had a little like, yeah, hey, good on you for not taking me at my word. That shows that you're smart. But under the circumstances, just sort of reacting to that rather painful handshake from Asami the way he did, I suppose that'll have to do. We also got another hilarious moment with the airbender guy, Ryu, and his family, and just the whole him playing tour guide thing while being horribly embarrassed by his mother. I think we've all probably been there at some point with our parents. And then there was just the whole moment where the guy goes, I'm going to go and poke it with a stick. What? Why would you do that? That was gold, man. That was pure gold. And of course, it also got the chance to let Jinora strut her stuff and show that she's young, but she's about the best. Probably next to like Tenzin and Zahir, she's the best person out there for this spiritual stuff. I'm sure some people are probably going to be making hentai jokes about the way those vines were going, and Jinora having the line, "The vines they're taking me," probably didn't help, but I think that's just more the dirty minds of us older viewers rather than the creators of the show actually doing anything wrong. So let's see, what else do we have going on this episode? Just more of Prince Wu being a dork. Now I did like that Korra got really mad. It's like, wait, you invite this idiot here and not me. I'm the when she's the Avatar. It does really play into her insecurity that people just don't take her as seriously as they used to, or think that she's less capable than she used to be. And that's really what Korra's thing is at this point. She can't let go of her fear over what happened with Zahir, and that's holding her back. She can't be 100% proper Avatar until she does. But we'll talk about Zahir in a sec. Now that whole council thing, obviously Korra's dad probably should have been there, as well as her cousins, since they're the ones who are in charge of the Northern Water Tribe. But under the circumstances, I think it's pretty safe to say that this is an emergency session, and they might be just on their way. Now, it is kind of interesting. We finally get to hear Zuko's daughter, Izumi, speak for the first time, even though she's appeared in cameos before. She doesn't have a lot to say. Excuse me, I ate lunch not that long ago. But she does sort of remind us that the Fire Nation does have a history beyond what happened 100 years ago of being an aggressive nation. This has not worked out well for them, and that's something that they want to put behind them. And of course, that's in keeping with the Fire Nation's equivalent as, in a lot of ways, at least in the original series, as an analog to Imperial Japan. Now keep in mind, World War II was not the first time that Japan marched off and tried to take over other places. They had at least twice before had tried to invade and conquer Korea. There's, of course, a long history of conflict with the Chinese. So, Japan as a aggressor towards foreign nations, again, not something that was exclusively limited to the 20th century. Of course, nowadays Japan, because of World War II, is actually not allowed to have an army, a navy. They're allowed to have a self-defense force, which adds up to the 8th largest military in the world, and as I understand it, is continuing to expand due to tensions with China. So, make of that what you will. But but Azumi is here presented as a very reasonable person, and she and Tenzin do make a good point that, a preemptive strike on a country that has not actually engaged in hostilities with the Fire Nation or the Republic City, maybe not the best idea. I mean, the people are probably not going to be so cool with that. They're like, wait, we're at war with a country that hasn't actually done anything to us just because we don't like their leader? Well, let's have a look at how people have reacted to exactly that sort of thing in modern history, huh? Yeah. On the other hand, Raiko and Prince Wu are right that something's got to be done about Kuvira because, yeah, she's obviously up to no good. And then, of course, they get the information about the super weapon being coming along. After Mako and Bolin, wearing Earth Kingdom military uniforms, burst into a meeting of some of the most powerful people in the entire world. Worst security guards ever. Okay. We also get to have an interesting moment, speaking of Tenzin, between him and Korra, where we see that, yeah, even Tenzin has lost a little bit of faith in Korra, and she's understandably very upset by that. But she manages to get him to come around, which was cool. This is a good example of showing conflict between people who are friends, allies, basically, for all intents and purposes, sort of Korra's surrogate family, and not have it be ridiculous, not have it being something that's unbelievable. And I like how they do resolve this simply by talking to each other. And again, we have seen that the whole diplomacy side of things has not been Korra's strongest suit until now. But it's probably what she's going to have to come up with, either a political or diplomatic solution to dealing with Kuvira. Because, well, one, we've seen that a bending battle isn't going to solve anything. The creators of the show have said, this is not something that's going to get sorted out with a bending battle. Korra is basically just going to have to discredit Kuvira as a leader in order for something to happen. I mean, yeah, now that she's kind of mentally okay, if she goes back there and says, hey, Kuvira, round 2, well, yeah, she'd probably win this time around. But that really wouldn't, I think, change anything in a meaningful way. Korra would, in fact, really just kind of come across as looking like kind of a bully in a way. Just somebody coming back for sour grapes. But anyway, now the real kicker in this episode is Korra going off and having a chat with Zahir, and I really love that they did bring Henry Rollins back for this because one, he was really great as Zahir, and here we get to see just how things have changed for Zahir in the 3 years since he was defeated, and he does make this sort of really great analogy that I have the ability to fly, but I'm chained to the earth, and you have the ability to do just about anything, but you're the one that's chosen to bind yourself down. And I do like how Korra kind of gets in his face about, hey, if you hadn't done all of this stuff, Kuvira wouldn't be in charge of the Earth Kingdom, and all this bad stuff wouldn't be happening. And she nails Zahir on that one. It's true. And this goes back to what we talked about, what I talked about when I was reviewing last season, that Zahir and the Red Lotus, they were all about tearing things down, tearing away the old governments, and sort of just let the people let the power return to the people. But basically their plan was, let's tear down all the governments in the world and just kind of hope that things work out. Thomas Jefferson said, hope is not a plan. And if you go and tear things down, like the system the government that people do rely on, even if it's a bad government, you must have something viable and workable in order to replace it. Otherwise, it's just probably going to turn into a contest of whoever is strongest stepping in to impose some kind of order. And as we've seen time and time again throughout history, people will choose to follow and obey and be ruled by a bad leader rather than leaving themselves open to just sheer anarchy. People want to be able to feel like, hey, if somebody, if that there is some degree of control around them, that they are going to be protected from people from outside who might wish to harm them, that they're going to be able to secure food for themselves and for their families. So anybody who comes along and provides any real level of security is almost always going to be preferable to "you're on your own, slick." Again, sometimes governments do have to be ousted simply because they have become unworkable, unwieldy, or just plain out totalitarian and hopelessly oppressive. Sometimes a system cannot be saved. It has to be completely and utterly replaced. A revolution, a revolt, whatever. But unless there is something real and viable to take its place, then everything's going to go to hell, and it's just going to become a strongman contest to jump back to control. Because people need to make sure that a mob is not going to come into and burn down their house. They're not going to need to be able to go to the store and get food and have electricity, be able to go to a hospital if there's a problem. People need a certain degree of security in order to just be able to live their lives and not be afraid all the time. And providing these things is why we have governments, why we have leaders. Because as much as we might like to think otherwise, nobody can really do it all by themselves. At least not in the modern world. I suppose if you wanted to throw things back to the way they were in the caveman days, oh wait, that was when people lived in tribes and tribes had leaders. I mean, leadership is just kind of a necessary thing in life. So Zahir kind of gets all of that thrown in his face. It is made clear to him that he has in fact played a big part in making this situation possible. And in a lot of ways you can basically make the case that the Earth Kingdom might be even worse off under Kuvira than it was under the Earth Queen. I mean, the Earth Queen was not a great person. She had the Dai League working for her. She was forcibly conscripting airbenders. But now Kuvira is looking at turning doomsday weapons on anybody that she doesn't like, and throwing people into re-education camps. I mean, yikes. Of course, Zahir ends up forcing Korra to realize that it's really just her own fears that are holding her back more than anything. And by facing those fears, and by facing Zahir and seeing that what happened to her is just an experience that's in the past, Korra is finally able to put things behind her and move on and go out there and be in a position to really, really deal with things. Now, the other main thing going on this episode is the relationship between Bolin and Opal. And boy, Opal really, really tears Bolin a new one. And in a way, they're both right. I mean, Bolin does apologize repeatedly for what he did, and Opal, is justified to be angry with him, but probably being a little harsher with him than is really absolutely necessary. After all, a lot of this stuff happened, that was beyond Bolin's control. And after he had realized that, whoa, Kuvira is not the person that I thought she was. Now, Opal doesn't have a 100% clear understanding of these events. These two haven't really sat down and gone into detail as to what exactly happened. So, yeah, Opal is being a tiny bit unfair to him, but under the circumstances, her attitude is perfectly reasonable. I had the feeling that Bolin will kind of fill her in on the details of exactly what happened between when they last saw each other, and she'll become a little bit more sympathetic to his side of things. And again, do keep in mind, he has repeatedly apologized. course, he also tricked her with the whole broken legs thing and kind of acted like a romantic picnic was going to be the proper place to start putting things back in order for them. And of course, that goes exceptionally poorly. And I do think it was kind of a little rotten of Opal to like, hey, if you want to get back together with me, you can start by helping me rescue my family. Well, you know what, Opal, if you just gone to Bolin and said to him, Bolin, I want you to help me rescue my family, he would have done it of his own volition. You don't need to dangle, being his girlfriend again out there in front of him. Bolin's got enough guilt about what's happened to Sue and her family all on his own. Remember, Sue was the one who had helped him with his bending before. So he liked Sue, and he had a lot of respect for her. So he'd have gone on and helped you anyway. Just sort of dangling being his girlfriend again in front of him seems kind of a bit dickish. But again, under the circumstances, Opal can't afford to take any chances that he might turn her down. So, again, not exactly the most flattering of moments for Opal as a character, but then again, she's got a lot of reasons to be very emotional and very upset, and nobody is in their best when they're in those sort of situations. So, whatever sins Opal might have committed this episode, I think they're pretty easily forgivable ones. And, yeah, guys, I think that kind of covers everything that I had to say about this episode. Again, really solid episode, really good stuff. And, oh man, can I not wait for things to kick off next week. I have a feeling we are going to be in for some of the craziest stuff this show has ever done. No doubt this show is going to go out on a big high note. So, with that said, as always, please comment, rate, subscribe, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.